Jounieh is a coastal city about 16 kilometers north of Beirut, Lebanon, and is part of Greater Beirut. Jounieh is known for its seaside resorts and bustling nightlife, as well as its old stone souk, ferry port, paragliding site and gondola lift, which takes passengers up the mountain to the shrine of Our Lady of Lebanon in Harissa.Above Jounieh, and on the way to Harissa, a small hill named Bkerké, overlooking the Jounieh Bay, is the seat of the Patriarch of the Maronite Catholic Church. Residents of Jounieh and the surrounding towns are overwhelmingly Maronite Christians. Mameltine is a district of the city. History. In the sixth part of the introduction to Jounieh in the mid-19th century, Professor Harissa.Above said, "Jounieh is a place on the Kasserwan coast which has warehouses, stores, and a dye house. Ships and boats bring supplies and its grain trade is very popular." Thus a district of the following villages, Saba, Gadir, and Harissa was named for it. Its total population is 2,500. Jounieh itself is not a residential area but mainly a commercial district whose workers come from neighboring towns. Jounieh was connected with neighboring areas by roads built for carriages, so it was connected with Bkerké and beyond it during the rule of Dawood Pasha, the ruler of Mount Lebanon. It was connected to Gadir between 1867 and 1868, despite the objection of Gadir's residents. Another road connected Jounieh to the Beirut Bridge during the rule of Rustam Pasha. To the north it was connected by a carriages road until Batroun during the rule of Wassa Pasha. In 1892, Jounieh was connected to Beirut via a railroad that had stations between the two locations, three of which in Jounieh and its environs, Saba, Jounieh, and Muamilitin at the end of the line, which facilitated the transportation of goods and passengers from into the governorate of Beirut. In 1876, the number of shops exceeded 300, 5 silk factories, 3 rest houses, a mill, 3 juice factories, an artificial ice factory, a bank known by its owner's name, Bank Bkerké, and a group of small sailboat construction sites. In 1906, according to the Guide to Lebanon by Ibrahim Bey Al-Soud, the population of Jounieh was 2,400, and it had a silk factory owned by the Nazris, a silkworms choker owned by Morsa de Frange, a silk factory owned by the heirs of Rizchella and Abdul Ahad Qadra which had 190 wheels and produced 10,000 cocoons, 330 domestic animals, and owned 80 carriages. According to the records of the Kasserwan Governorate, the town of Gadir in 1914 had 433 corporations and its population was 1,263. The town of Saba had 213 commercial institutions and its population was 1,714. In Harissa, there were 165 corporations and its population was 808. In Sahil Alma, there were 21 corporations, its population reached 187. Jounieh had seen noticeable prosperity after France and the Maronite Patriarchy supported the opening a port for commercial ships which became the official port of Mount Lebanon. In 1913 and during the Mandate era, Jounieh suffered economic decline and recession as the French administration moved part of Jounieh's administrative role to the capital, Beirut. Also, Jounieh came out of the First World War weakened by famine and economic stagnation, so several of its inhabitants were forced to move to the capital to immigrate, and Jounieh lost most of its expertise. Its social and population development stopped, and its economic development weakened. The The 1932 statistics showed 1,286 housed in Jounieh, 371 in Saba, 434 in Gadir, 350 houses in Harissa, and 131 in Sahil Alma. This affected the building industry, and records in the town hall showed very limited number of permits given from 1922 to 1940. The only active sectors in that period were schools, small crafts, and planting of citrus trees, sugar cane, and vegetables. This situation stayed the same until the rule of President Fuad Shahab, who outfitted the city with all that it needed to become modern. Jounieh then awakened from its slumber with projects for roads, lighting, modern planning, a stadium, a tourist port, a government house, and infrastructure. President Shahab used a number of experts and engineers headed by the French engineer Bkerké. The talk became more of Monte Carlo of the East, and Jounieh stood out as a bride of the Lebanese coast. In 1959, it started to attract banks, the first which were the Lebanese Commerce Bank and the Lebanese Federal Bank. By 1975, the number of banks reached 6, and today there are 38 banks in addition to the Lebanese Central Bank, which was established in 1879. The area also witnessed an increase in the price of land from an average of 7 to 9 Lebanese pounds per square meter between 1950 and 1962, an average of 25 to 35 Lebanese pounds in 1965. The construction sector developed slowly, starting from Saba to Harissa, and finally the coast of Alma. The buildings also started expanding around the city as the agricultural sector contracted and became confined to the coasts of Kaslik and some orchards in Gadir, Harissa, and the coast of Alma. In the beginning of the 70s, Jounieh was transformed to a major and complete tourist center, with the tourist network around it and on its edges including Casino du Liban, the cable cars, the Harissa Church, the caverns in Jata, restaurants, hotels, nightclubs, and a port. With the War of 1975, and the division of Beirut into east and west parts and the escalation of the violence, many people fled to safe areas and were organizing their lives in accordance with the new realities. From 1980 to 1990, Jounieh witnessed a massive migration as a large number of the Beirut traders moved to its markets. Buildings took over its green spaces, and the tourist complexes took over its shores. So its features changed randomly, though it benefited from the use of the tourist port for commerce. Today, close to 100,000 people reside in Jounieh. Those who live in its suburbs exceed that number. By the middle of the century, it is predicted that Jounieh will become a suburb of Beirut in a coastal line that forms one city that expands the length of the coastal road at a time when the inhabitants of Lebanon will reach 6 million plus around the year 2025. Tourism. Paragliding site. Paragliding site in Gosta, 3 minutes from Harissa. Since 1992, paragliding above Jounieh is considered one of the best outdoor activities in Lebanon. Jounieh International Festival. Jounieh International Festival hosts every year in summer national and international icons like Mika, Jessie J, Imagine Dragons and many others. Jounieh International Festival. http www.jounieh.internationalfestival.com. Casino du Liban. Casino du Liban offers gaming and shows and is located in the northern part of Jounieh. It is also the biggest one in the Middle East. Lebanese Heritage Museum. Lebanese Heritage Museum displays items related to the culture and history of Lebanon. Ferry. The Ferry is a gondola lift that operates between Jounieh and Harissa. It offers the passengers beautiful panoramic views of the Bay of Jounieh and the coast all the way to Beirut. International relations. Twin towns. Sister cities. Jounieh is twinned with Monaco, Gustavia, St. Barthélemy, France. Las Vegas, Nevada, USA. Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Multimedia. High-quality photo collection of Lebanon by Paul Assad.